Hi friends, Tara here. So I thought this week I would share around a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is leadership. So my question to you is, are you showing up in your life as a real leader? Now I ask you that question because the only way to create success and prosperity in any undertaking in our lives, whether that be our personal or professional lives, or even much bigger, but on a planetary global level, is we have to be leading in our lives. And when we lead, when we are operating from this place of real leadership, we can not only lead ourselves, which is first and foremost, but we can lead others. Now, I've been studying leadership for a very long time. I teach leadership. And I have learned so much about leadership. Now, first of all, I just want to point out that I have 2 black belts. I have one in success and I have one in failure. So when it comes to leadership, there is a reason why I have spent so many years studying leadership. I've been studying and teaching and mentoring leadership with Bob Proctor for many years. Before that, I was with Tony Robbins, Master University Leadership Academy. And I was with Robin Sharma and the Titan Academy around leadership. So I spent a big part of my life studying leadership. And there's a reason for it. Because I wasn't programmed to be a phenomenal leader. My family had a lot of hurt. There was a lot of victim consciousness and trauma and story and coping and masking and addiction that came from, the Holocaust, from war. I think many of you here can relate. So I didn't have people around me that could teach me how to show up as a real leader. Now, everybody in some undertaking in their life is leading. It's just whether we're a good leader or not. So I would just inspire you to just take a moment and reflect on all the different areas in your life. Are you leading in that area? Are you a real leader? Now, your results are always going to tell you the truth because our results never lie. When you're experiencing success and prosperity and you feel joyful and there's ease and happiness, all that good stuff and peace, well, you're succeeding. But when there's the opposite, which is lack, limitation, poverty, failure, disease, that tells you the truth too. That tells you you're not leading. So for me, I got really interested in leadership, more than interested. I made a commitment that I was going to become a phenomenal leader. And for the most part, I am a phenomenal leader now. That's part of my daily intention, to just be a phenomenal leader, really show up and do the work. But in order to become a leader, I had to program myself for leadership. Now, I've learned so much around leadership, so I wanted to share a little bit around to give you some insights to help you really reflect and maybe even commit or create some sort of accountability around leading. And why? Because I think that there's no better time to lead than right now, especially with all the happenings on the planet. And I want you to go to a mirror, to look at your reflection. Why? Because the leader you're looking for is you. I think that many of us on this planet are looking for somebody to lead, something outside of us to fix the problem, make it better, to lead us. But the leader you're looking for is you. You have to develop yourself into a leader. Things don't change. We change. And prosperity and success and ease and happiness, that's your birthright. You just have to claim it. Now, what I've learned about real leadership is that real leaders respond. They lead from the highest side of their nature, from the higher mental faculties, which means, first of all, they can think. They're not allowing what's going on outside of them, circumstances oftentimes that you can't control, to dictate how they feel and show up on the outside. Real leaders are calm. They respond to stressors. They're always focused on what's working. And when things aren't working, they look for another way it could work. They're always focused on the solution. The opposite of real leadership, which actually would be called dictatorship, and we have had enough of dictatorship, and we've all showed up that way as well. Dictatorship is a reactive energy. It's where the victim consciousness, it's blame, projection. It's acting from the lowest side of our nature, which actually makes us no different than a pig or a horse. That's the lower mental faculties. This is where we live from the outside in, as where real leaders live from inside out. And so each of us has the ability to develop ourselves into real leaders, to respond, to really think, to think from the highest side of our nature, which is who we really are as spirit. I mean, who we really are is love and compassionate, forgiving. We have the ability from this side of our nature to create magic and miracles. But when we're living from the opposite side, it's a reactive energy. So that's all you have to do. When you look at your life and you look at your relationships and all the many different spaces and places, are you responding to life or are you reacting? This isn't always an easy task because the paradigm is so strong. It's so easy to think that something outside of you is the problem. It's so easy to project and blame. I mean, this is where I have a black belt in failure. I used to do this a lot in the past. But remember, I didn't have the kind of leadership that taught me how to be a real leader. I was raised with a lot of dictatorship, a lot of reactivity and hurt and disease. But I choose now to be a real leader. And you can do the same. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I am continually developing myself as a phenomenal leader. I continue to study myself. I continue to show up with those attributes of a real leader, to show up authentically and with integrity and honestly and with love, self-love, love for others. So I want to inspire you, hopefully through this share, to develop yourself as the leader that you wish to see. It truly is an inside game. I know we keep hearing all this internal, but it's true. Real leaders lead from within. People follow real leaders not because they're forced or they're coerced. They follow real leaders because they want to, because they're inspired by them, because there's something within them where they can feel that magic. They can feel the authenticity. And remember, the real leader you're looking for, it's you. Take a good hard look at your reflection in the mirror. You were built for this time on this planet. And our Creator is asking each of us in whatever way, little and big, to show up as a real leader. To take 100% responsibility, to do the necessary work, and to create the world that we all want to live in together. So make it a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, hey guys, Dr. Devin here. I would like to talk about the great somewhere out there. I had the honor of interviewing Garrett Kramer before the big idea in April because he was going to join us in person and some things came up and he made the decision not to come, which I want to come back to at the end of this. but he wanted to contribute a message. And so we co-created a conversation around, being the change in the world, right? Be the change, be the light. And he said, really that, comes from understanding that there is no such thing as out there. Feel that? There is no out there. There's only my perception of out there. And when you get that, comes an opportunity, a gift, if you will receive it as such, to take radical responsibility for my role in whatever it is that I'm seeing, feeling, perceiving out there. And, it was a really beautiful conversation and opened my heart. I don't think there are necessarily new truths being unveiled, but rather ancient truths. The truth is the truth is the truth. And sometimes we just need to see it and feel it and hear it in different ways. And what that opened up for me is that over the last few years, I've gotten really angry. I've gotten really frustrated. I've experienced a lot of emotions and felt a lot of pressure of like, man, I got to get out there and like change the world. But that's based in a premise that there's something wrong with the world. And what if it's exactly as it's meant to be? It would be like saying, the blistery, pussy scab on a wound is bad. It's not bad. It's part of the healing process. We're just, in my opinion and current perception, in the scab. We're in the pus. We're in the not fun part of healing. And yet I can look at what has come up over the last few years, and I am so grateful. I am so grateful for what I have learned about freedom, about sovereignty, about life. I have connected with soul family members that I never would have gone searching for, like you, whoever you are on the other end of this, had I not gotten tossed into the 2020 gauntlet, right? And so to change it assumes that I know best, when in reality, it's just a journey. It's a ride that we're all on and co-creating with our own perceptions. And it brings profound peace to my heart to let go of control, of needing to do the work and fix it all and control it out of some deep-seated fears or lacks of trust within me, that all is well, and that all will be well. Because when I return to that truth, when I expect miracles, when I take responsibility that if there's, discord, be it in my marriage or in my team or in the world, I have to own my own role in the drama, right? I have to say, what is this in me? What is this teaching me about me? Sitting with it and going, wow, this is fascinating. Now, we all know, and I could list 10 different topics, right? Like there are absolute, I'm going to say perceived, assaults on our freedom. And yet, like there were mask mandates here, but I didn't wear one in my office. Like I didn't participate. We still have choice, right? So there was this elusive thing happening, but it only came as close to me as I would allow in. And that was something Garrett said. We can still stand in our truth. We still must actually hold the boundaries of right and wrong. But we cannot outsource our power and turn it into a victim song that we don't have control over what has happened to us. Not control. The victim song that we are defined, that we are limited, that we are a slave to what has happened to us or what the world or anybody, quite frankly, out there in it does. It's how prisoners of war can somehow find peace, right? There is There's a way to find your center in your own body, mind, and soul and get to the stillness, because truth of truth of truth, as above, so below, as within, so without. That's the most fascinating part to me about this great awakening that we are all a part of. No two people on the planet have experienced the same experience over the last few years. Doesn't that blow your mind? Like, even those of us that might agree on more topics than we disagree still haven't felt it the same way. I can only imagine what those of you in Canada have gone through, those of you in Australia and New Zealand and European countries, in California for that matter. Like, none of us have experienced the same. So because I choose to anchor and root myself in joy and prosperity and peace, because I choose that, I'm going to have to stay really curious and not get too fixated on trying to get out of this scab that we're in, and just, wow, wake up each day. All right, God, let's play, let's dance, and just see, out of curiosity and imagination, what does this day have for me? What does this experience have for me? And I don't know about you, but man, that makes it a lot more lighthearted and fun and free. And that's what I want. And that last little tidbit I wanted to come back to, that I wanted to just really acknowledge, that we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And when Garrett decided not to come to the Big Idea this year in person, he gave me a big gift, because he just reiterated that during this time, we're all stepping into soul purpose and our own callings, whatever they may be. And in order to align ourselves in our destiny, in our soul purpose, in our peace, in our enlightenment journey, in order to do that, we're going to have to get really intentional and clear about our yeses and our nos. Because when we say yes to one thing, we say no to something else. When we give our energy to something, we remove the opportunity to give it to something else. And so, overwhelm and chaos and stress, right? Stress. It's often because we're fractured in indecision and lack of clarity about where we're going. Where are we going? What do we want? When you know who you are and what you want, when you're following that soul beam inside of you, and you can feel it calling and you're moving forward, yeses and nos get a lot easier, And I guess my invitation to you would be the same as his was to me. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to say yes. When you hold it to your heart and you say, where is yes? When I say, where is yes in my body? Where is yes? Like the ecstasy of yes. I feel it in my heart. I can feel it like butterflies on my heart. When I say, show me no, where is no? Where is my energetic no? I feel it in my kidneys. I feel it in my back. And so when I'm making decisions, little or big, I'll hold it to my heart and say, yes or no. Is this yes? And I visualize myself participating or going about that route, and I'll say, show me yes or show me no. All of this, for me at least, has been an invitation to come back home within my own heart, within my own soul. The last few years has been a divine timed scab of healing to come back to God, to come back to trust, to realign myself, to call myself back to center, to clear the entanglements, to choose how I participate in out there, because I'm more steady and ready in here.
Hello, event family. I wanted to share in this week's podcast about it's really hard as a parent, for those parents out there, to find good sources of books and media for our kids. So I wanted to share about 3 authors in particular that I've found to be hugely valuable to read with, and just books to give my 8-year-old daughter. And she likes books for 8-year-olds, but she also likes books for 10, 12, and kind of that range. So that's kind of the range that I'm going to be talking about here. The first author I would like to share about is Connor Boyack, who wrote a 12-book series for kids called The Tuttle Twins. And the website for that is TuttleTwins.com, Tuttle twins.com. And so these books, there's 12 books, and I think they're on for like $40 right now. And they're just they cover so many different topics to help our kids, basically become immune to brainwashing. And some of their new books for teens actually teach critical thinking and different. They go deeper into the how-to. But these books are really suitable, I would say, for like 6 to 13-year-olds. Some of the titles are The Law, Messed Up Market, The Fate of the Future, the Creature from Jekyll Island. Like, they're actually teaching kids about the illusory nature of the Fed. And so basically what the author says is it's critical that we empower our children to understand these time-tested principles so that they can recognize and reject the brainwashing they will be bombarded with in the world. Fortunately, parents like you don't have to do this alone. So they also have this monthly magazine that it's like maybe 14 pages that I subscribe to, and my daughter just loves it. There's like activities in there and things. So this is one of the best sources right now to teach kids about basically thinking for themselves, acting for themselves as they grow older, but at the same time family values, and respecting or mapping out pathways that they can become entrepreneurs and start thinking creatively and manifesting their dreams into reality at a young age. There's also a huge crowdfunded YouTube series now, and I think they have up to about 5 or 6 episodes of the Tuttle Twins. So TuttleTwins.com, definitely highly recommend that. The second one is a Christian author, or perhaps better, a Christian mystic author, I would say, named Ted Dekker, and he's at TEDDEKKER.com. My daughter and I have read together 3 of his series now. So he does youth fiction, and he does adult fiction, and he does adult non-fiction as well. So we absolutely love the journeys that we go on in these books, which are all inspired by an understanding of the Christ and honoring of Yeshua and the relationship there, and how Christ is central to overcoming challenges in these books. So if you resonate with that, I would definitely encourage you to check out TedDekker.com. I came across his adult fiction book named The 49th Mystic, I think last summer, and I just found it absolutely riveting. And since then, as I mentioned, we've read 3 book series. I think a total of about 12 books together, my daughter and I, and she's just loved them. So the third one is actually not a kid's author, but I actually bought a series here just recently by Paulo Coelho, the Brazilian fiction author. And I wanted to share about him because I just found this out. Like, I've read The Alchemist, like many of you, and I think it's called The Path of the Spiritual Warrior, and he's written 30 books and has sold 320 million copies. But he has a past. So he was born in the late 40s, and in the 60s, he was finding his way creatively, and he was basically institutionalized against his will in an insane asylum by his parents. And so he has a very unique take on health freedom and on freedom in general, freedom of mind. What is sanity? What is insanity? And his book, one of his books is called Veronica Decides to Die. It's pretty deep, obviously. This one and most of his books are not for kids. However, I am planning to read The Alchemist with my daughter. And so this one deals with the subject of suicide. And ultimately, it's a hugely life-affirming book. I absolutely love this book. And especially because much of this book he drew from his own experience. So it's so inspiring to see that a revolutionary like Paulo Coelho, who had experience with, the complete and utter lack of health freedom as an emergent, soul, a very bright soul, an artist on the planet, had those experiences. I think 3 times he was in a mental institution, and then after that, as a political activist, he was also imprisoned 3 times, and he said that was even more, more challenging than being in a mental institution in his early 20s. But for him to move through that and in such a powerful and inspiring way, and then to write about it, and notably in this book, I just want to share here in closing, there's a section after the book, and it's basically called Paulo Coelho on the inspiration behind the book. And I'll read the last just over a page here. He says, "I thought Canada has never been a military dictatorship, and it's considered to have the best quality of life in the world. Why then are there so many mad people there? Why aren't they in mental hospitals? That question led me to another. What exactly is madness? I found these answers to both of these questions. First, people aren't placed in mental institutions if they continue to be socially productive. If you are capable of getting to work at 9 a.m. and staying until 5 p.m., then society does not consider you incapacitated. It doesn't matter if you sit in a catatonic state in front of the television from 5:01 p.m. until 8:59 a.m. You may indulge the most perverted sexual fantasies on the internet, stare at the wall blaming the world for everything and feeling generally put upon, feel afraid to go out into the street, be obsessed with cleanliness or lack of cleanliness, or suffer from bouts of depression and compulsive crying. As long as you can turn up for work and do your bit for society, you don't represent a threat. You're only a threat when the cup finally overflows and you go out into the street with a machine gun in your hand, like a character in a child's cartoon, and kill 15 children in order to alert the world to the pernicious effects of Tom and Jerry. Until you do that, you're deemed normal." I would, myself talking again, I would add in a couple of other things there now at this point, but and he says, and madness? Madness is the inability to communicate. Between normality and madness, which are basically the same thing, there exists an intermediary stage. It is called being different. And people were becoming more and more afraid of being different. In Japan, after giving much thought to the statistical information I just read, I decided to write a book based on my own experiences. I wrote this book, called Veronica Decides to Die, in the third person and using my feminine ego because I knew the important subject to be addressed was not what I had personally experienced in mental institutions, but rather the risks we run by being different, and conversely, our horror of being the same. So Apollo very much can see the insanity of normality. And he says, it says here at the end, Veronica Decides to Die, the book came out in Brazil in August 1998. And he goes on to say in closing, on January 22nd, 1999, Senator Eduardo Suplicy, I believe in Brazil, read passages from my book aloud to other senators and managed to win approval for a law forbidding arbitrary admissions into mental institutions, which they had been trying to get through the Brazilian Congress for the last 10 years. So what an inspirational soul and writer Paulo Coelho is. to go through all of that and just to be such a change agent and voice for individual sovereignty, individual freedom of thought, and the, being different. He says that the horror of being the same and the risks we run of being different. So keep thinking and keep communicating. Have the courage to be different. And so there's a couple of my highest suggestions for all the parents out there and non-parents, especially in the case of Ted Decker and Paulo Coelho. So blessings, you guys. Have a great day. Peace.